Tō katoa, nau mai ki te hui o te kaunihiri o Poniki e ai tēnei rā. Welcome to the Regulatory Processes Committee meeting on this very bright and sunny Wednesday. Please let me or the Democracy Advisor know if you intend to leave the meeting early. Morning tea will be at 10:30 a.m. I will now invite councillors to stand with me and say the karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. He aki te atakura, he teo, he hukaka, he hauhu, ti hei, mauri ora. Jeez, I was on autopilot. Of course, everybody should say the karakia. E whakataka te hau, whakataka koutou ana o ai te motini. Kia ora, Liz. I'm just asking for any apologies that have been submitted to committee. I am submitting an apologies.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. No, you can't.
Yes, we can, Liz. She can't.
Yes, we can hear you, Liz. Can you hear me? It seems clear you can't hear the councillors in the room, so I'm just checking if you can hear me.
All right. We will let our friends at DEM Services communicate with Liz and just make sure that she is able to rejoin us. Do we still have quorum if Liz is unable to attend? Yeah. All right. Cool. Just asking for any...
Here, can you hear me?
Yes, Liz. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I don't know what's going on with me, my photo, my face. If I turn the camera off with as I actually start your video. I'm here anyway. If you can hear me, I can hear you.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah. So do we have any apologies? I have an apology from the Mayor and my apologies are in for 12:45.
How do I get out of this? Turn that down, mute that.
Liz, if you are able to turn your... Yeah, thank you. Did we have a note from Councillor Matthews in the chat? Apologies, I can't see the chat.
Camera
off. Oh, okay. Yep, excellent. I've moved the motion that the apologies be accepted. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Free. I now put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please press 1. Those against, please press 2. Excellent, that is carried. Conflict of interest declarations. I call on members to declare any conflicts of interest that they may have in relation to the items on the agenda. Do we have any conflict of interests? No, if that is all good, I will move on to the confirmation of the minutes. E whakataka koutou ana o ai te motini. I move the motion that the Pūroro Hātepe Regulatory Processes Committee meeting move the minutes of the committee meeting held on the 8th of June 2022, having been circulated, and that they be taken as a read and confirmed as an accurate record of that meeting. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Free. I now put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please press 1. Those against, please press 2. Ko mana, I declare the motion is carried. There are no items not on the agenda for today, and now we get to move on to public participation. First off, we have Mike Mellor from Living Streets Aotearoa talking on the traffic resolutions. Welcome, Mike. You know the drill.
Councillors, yes, I do know the drill, thank you. Can I have I've got a...
Yep, you have 10 minutes and the timer is just up above.
I've got a PowerPoint that...
I see.
There we go, thank you. There we go. Right, there are lots of good proposals. Oops, gone all the way through. Sorry about this. Right. Summary what I can say, there are a lot of good proposals, and it's really remarkable the way that most of them have got really strong support. There's hardly a comment that's against them. But there are a few, three in particular, where the words and the pictures don't match up. All three of them are in the city centre, and sorry, apologies for that's so small. The point about Victoria Street is that it says it's in shared. It's allowing parking in shared public footpath space. We don't know what shared public footpath space is. It's either shared space or it's a footpath or it's whatever, but it can't be any of those three. And it actually confuses or it combines two separate things. There's the issue of Wellington Water parking, which no one can object to. Wellington Water parking is obviously something that's high on everybody's agenda to get to their things. But the other one is footpath space for food trucks, and it's we've gone. The proposal says that that's better, thank you. It's providing more footpath space while ensuring no vehicles are at this location unless for the maintenance of the pump station or an emergency. But there's no more footpath space shown on the drawing. In fact, there's less footpath space because it's taken up with the parking, the two lots of parking, one of which was supportive, another which we're not supportive. There is a possibility there, and other submissions are saying that why don't we take over the parking spaces immediately beside it for parking purposes, which looks to us to be very sensible. And the no vehicles except in an emergency is actually not true because it's no vehicles except for food trucks. And why we need food trucks there parking on the footpath. So the point there is it's not providing more footpath space. And the issue should be described properly, and the proposal to put food trucks on there should be described as putting food trucks on the footpath. The next one is on Bolton Street and the Terrace. Is that going to come up? Yes, which is very interesting. This is another one in the city centre. Where we all know that we're talking about priority for active modes, and you can see that picture. There are 9 people crossing the road there, and that's not a staged photograph. That's off street view, and there is no mention of pedestrians in this at all. It's purely about vehicles, safer turning for vehicles. And there are several comments made, let's make it safer for pedestrians. And the response is, there haven't been any crashes, so there isn't an issue. Now, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm rolling my eyes at that. There is an issue. You know, I don't know about you, but in my decades of life, I've crossed many roads that are dangerous, and I haven't been hit yet. And what we're saying is one of those 9 people needs to be taken out before we consider putting a safe crossing in there. That's just not good enough. There's tighter corners, a raised crossing, stop signs, all those sorts of things should be considered there, and in Aurora Terrace as well, which is a very similar crossing, because this is an important route for where people walk. The third one is Aiken Street. which, once again, the words and the pictures don't match up. It says pedestrian impact, no net impact. But it's proposing a loading zone which is all on current footpath. So it's actually a reduction in pedestrian space. And it says prioritizing short stay parking over all day commuter parking. But commuter parking doesn't feature in this traffic resolution at all. It's actually prioritising short stay parking, which is what the proposed use for the footpath is, over the footpath use, which is the current use. So, we are fully supportive of many of these, but it's difficult to be supportive of ones that don't actually describe what the proposal is. So, the main point is obviously that the places are for pedestrians, but the second one is when the purpose of the words in these things is to pick out what it's about, and they need to be what the resolutions are actually about, and these three are not good on that. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mike. Councillors, did we have any questions for Mike? Councillor Pennant.
Sorry, everyone. Just fiddling around with my buttons. Mike, thanks for all the work that you did on those traffic resolutions. I was wondering about that Aiken Street one, just because you could argue that there needs to be space for mobility parking and short stay. So just given it's a significant institution, can you see there's some justification there?
I certainly can see justification, but I can't see the justification for saying it has no effect on pedestrians. I mean, there may be other options. I don't know. We're not experts. We haven't looked at it in detail. But an option that takes away pedestrian space in the city centre needs to be justified as such.
Okay, so I guess we can ask officers whether more work needs to be done on that. We're sensitive about loading zones, right? Because that's obviously important, and for a place like archives. But I will follow that up later. Thank you very much. And so just the Bolton Street one. I'm very sympathetic, and all the submitters wanted some change there, but you don't think the officer's justification is adequate?
Well, the officer's justification, and I paraphrased, and I apologise if I'm paraphrasing, there haven't been any crashes, so there's not a safety issue, so we can't do anything. Right,
so they gave a justification around the stop sign, but so do you accept that justification?
The justification for stop signs was because of distance of visibility, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
But I can think of exceptions to that. There's the famous, no, can I think of it? I'm not sure. I don't know the details on that once again. But the key thing is that in the initial proposal, there was no mention of pedestrians. And this is a key pedestrian place that was solely concerned with vehicular crashes.
Okay, I'll ask about that later. Thank you.
Thanks.
We've got Deputy Mayor Free.
Thank you, Mike. This is pretty tangential to the traffic resolutions, but I'm interested in that shared pedestrian come whatever space in Victoria Street. There's quite a bit of space set aside there, but what's your view on its actual function, and could it be improved?
Well, if you look back, that was actually a vegetation. There were, before the Victoria Street changes happened, when after Curra Drive was completed, that was actually vegetated space, and it was changed from that into rather a brutal concrete space. Now, we're not sure why that happened. So I recall that the Victoria Street process was quite rushed, and it was difficult to get into detail there. There are opportunities along both sides of Victoria Street where it is a bit of a concrete canyon. There are wide paved spaces which don't really serve much purpose and could be better used. I mean, it may be that the food trucks there are a reasonable idea, but it needs to be done as, once again, taking pedestrian space to put food trucks in, which it's not framed as. And I mean, there's lots of things we could and should be doing in Victoria Street, and one of those is actually making it a nicer place to sit. I mean, that volunteer corner is down there, which is not a particularly nice place to sit. We would really like that to be extended up into this little triangle, so that it provides a bit of green space, which was there before the improvements were done.
Thank you. I know it's not quite what the topic, but it's sort of associated with it, so I wanted your views. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, members. Did we have any more partai for Mike? No. Thank you, Mike. If you stick around, you might be able to listen to representatives ask officers some of the very good points you've raised. Thank you. Excellent. Next, we have Peter Dare talking on Traffic Resolution 124. I'd like to welcome Peter. Thank you, Peter. Welcome. You've got 5 minutes allocated to you, and you can keep track on the clock up there. If you'd like to leave some time for questions, then we can allow for that.
Thank you. I want to talk about the T section between Avon Street and Melbourne Road in Island Bay. There's proposals to put a stop sign or some sort of sign, and they seem to think that Avon Street should be the stop sign. Well, the rules with T intersections, which this is the top of the T, which is Avon Street, has the right of way. The tail of the T, which is Melbourne Road, that is the give way, that's the stop sign. Or give way, whatever you want to do. Also, Melbourne Road, when you're in it, all the traffic from Avon Street is on your right. And the basic rules in New Zealand is you keep left and give way to the right. So, and also Melbourne Road is changing direction. The other thing is, if you do other than what the rules state, you're confusing people. And there's enough confusion on the roads as there is without wondering what to do with each intersection when you get to it. So I would suggest if the sign goes on, if you want to have a sign, goes on Melbourne Road, and it doesn't have to be a stop sign, it could be a give way. Questions?
Thank you, Peter. I just wanted to clarify, could you repeat the streets again of the proposed?
Avon Street, Melbourne Road,
Okay.
Island Bay. And Avon Street at the top, that is where the new development in Erskine College has taken place, which is working very well.
Cool. So TR 9122. Thank you. Members, did we have any questions for Peter? If we don't, did you have any other notes that you wanted us to consider?
No, that's all right. Just put the sign where it should be. Right, thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. I'd now like to welcome Caroline Vincent to come and talk to us about Traffic Resolution 8122. Do we have Caroline Vincent present in the room? Have they checked in? No, that's all right. We will come back to them. Next on the list, we have Jason and Melissa Neal. And I can see some more public participants. We will get to you very shortly. Welcome, Jason. I presume you have 5 minutes allotted to speak on this traffic resolution, and if you'd like to leave time for questions.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Chair, Councillor and Committee for allowing us to speak today. I'm speaking on behalf of the residents of Havelock Street from 24 Havelock onwards, and we put together a compromise which is 12622 in the meeting notes, and we received 78% feedback from the street, which was organised through having people to our house and talking to people in the street to try and give a balanced submission on the proposed no stopping at all times. All the street agree emergency vehicles should be able to reach the end of the cul-de-sac and the corner on 25 Havelock Street has caused issues with vehicles parking on both sides and not considering others. So we're for those yellow lines at that point. We would like to thank the Transport and Engineering team for listening and agreeing to our submission back and asking for the yellow broken lines on the straight part of the street to be reduced and really compromised by 2 metres. I do ask for another 2 metres, but I'll talk about that thing. So residents would be grateful if the Transport and Engineering team, with approval from the Regulatory Process Committee, could consider reducing broken lines another 2 metres and widening the burn. So I didn't realise to bring a presentation, but I did, in the notes, display a picture of just a countdown truck coming through and delivering on the straight part of the street. And one of the concerns, or a really strong concern, is that emergency vehicles, including ambulances, can get to the end of the street, and that was noted in the submissions. We do say that, we did just say that I'm just holding another picture of what's in the thing of the straight part. It's a little bit deceptive of how wide the street is at parts, and we're just asking for, along that straight, just a little bit more distance so that we do the, so some more parking can be there for the vehicles, and I'll explain why. In regards to the burn widening, we have 100% support from all the street, including Penny Pūroro, whose husband, Brian Pūroro, served for the Wellington City Council for many years. And we note that at the end of the street, people are frustrated on vehicles, including ourselves, parking on the corner and making it difficult for emergency vehicles to get to the end of the street. In some instances have been pointed out, and they were pointed out in my submission as well. We would like the council to consider the 28 to 30 people using the street or parking on the street with no off-street parking, and the overflow from the beginning of the street that comes to the end of the cul-de-sac, which isn't busy. Many use the vehicles to get to employment and are not able to use public transport. These include 3 trade vans, a number of hospital workers working shifts, including a paramedic, orthopedic, radiologist, and a nurse. So we're pretty well covered in the street. Myself, I'm personally impacted with no off-street parking, which has only recently become a problem. I live at 28 and have been there for over 5 years. And Melissa, that's not here today, my wife suffers from asthma, and we're asking, we occasionally use vehicles to get to the hospital quite quickly and access for 28 and around those 28, 30 and 32, which don't have the ability for off-street parking, just some more parking along the straight part of the street we asked for. I thank you for listening for me today, and any questions I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Jason, and well done for rallying around your street and getting everybody together for a meeting at your whare. We have a question from Councillor Condi.
Thank you. Thanks, Jason, for coming in. I was just wondering where you asked about widening the berm. Was there a particular section of the street that you had in mind?
Yeah, certainly. So we're just asking between really 24 and 30. It's all council reserve, so there's a lot of land there, and we're just asking when the roading is improved, if council could consider widening that burn a little bit, which would just make it easier for larger vehicles and emergency vehicles getting through. So without being in the street, there's a little bit of room there, and the other parts of the street it's wider. But the issue definitely is on the corner where cars park side by side, and it makes it difficult for emergency vehicles.
Thank you. Are there any more pātai? Otherwise, we have come to the end of the 5 minutes. All right, we will allow one question.
I'm just wondering how many, I know parking's always at a premium, how many people in your street would have more than one car park?
Yeah, so I did put that in a little bit in the
sorry.
notes. So we've got three houses that have turned to rentals, and they can have up to 3 to 4
I see.
vehicles. So that is the change in the issue. But myself, we have one car, and generally people that have been there longer in the street have just a small
Just one car,
vehicle.
a small vehicle.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
And the trade vehicles are the concern where they need the vans. But everyone is a lot more considerate, and having the open home and have people around has meant that people are working together.
Do you need some sort of trade parking collectively in your community?
I think collectively, just speaking with everyone's worked quite well because it's one particular house that has more trade vehicles.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much for coming in to talk to us today, Jason.
Thank you.
Excellent. I would now like to welcome Kiaya, Devon, and Vanessa Hutchins from Redwood School. Welcome to the Regulatory Processes Committee. Thank you so much for coming in to talk to us today. And we have you down for 10 minutes to talk to us about this traffic resolution. If you'd like to leave some time spare at the end for questions, that would be welcomed. Thank you.
Right, guys. Kia ora, talofa, konnichiwa, and hello. I am Sophia.
Hi, I'm Devon.
Hello, I'm Kaya, and behind us we have Stevie, Grace, Keenan, and Felix from our classroom last year. We're Year 6s from Redwood Primary School in Tawa. As you know, we're here because our school is within walking distance from most students' houses, but most students don't walk. This can be traced back to one street, Oriole Avenue.
Sufficient surveys and concerned parents have proven that this road is a problem. Many Redwood kids live there as it runs along Tawa. Last year, our class wrote letters to the Tawa Council about this problem, as a Year 3 called Luca reached out to us about it.
We agree that this island near Gonville Street would not only prove beneficial physically, but mentally. As we mentioned before, parents are also worried about their children's safety on this road. And as a result, many are driven to school, when walking is so much better for the environment and their health. Our council is really pushing the active in travel in kids, but it isn't enough just to tell people to do things. We need to help them achieve it.
In conclusion, we give this refugee island our official endorsement, and we strongly believe that the word of young people should be valued. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Very eloquent. We have a pātai from Councillor Day.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you so much for your mahi on this and for your initial letters that you sent to us to get the ball rolling on making this change. I'm aware that in the letters that your class sent last year that there were some other suggestions as well, and I know that some of you live on or near Oriole Ave. That's also where I live, and I'm wondering if you have any other thoughts about any of the other parts of Oriole Ave, because I definitely agree with the one that you've identified here, but I know that some of you maybe identified other places that could do with some improvement.
We do find that some areas it's quite steep, so cars do go down really fast, and there are some blind corners, which is very hard for small children to cross when we're short, and sometimes not the best at looking when we're crossing. But we think that the place that we're suggesting would probably be the most beneficial, because that's where a lot of our students cross.
Thank you, and thank you so much. You've made some change here to our city, which will make things safer for young people. So thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Members, are there any more pātai for our participants? No, thank you. Would you like to add anything else, any other stories or anything else you'd like to share?
I know that my parents are always worried about me crossing that street, as many of my friends live there and I like to go see them. And sometimes I get worried crossing it, especially when I'm walking my dog. I used to get really scared that, cars would come and I wouldn't be able to see them, because it is quite blind corners and it's very fast. So it is quite scary sometimes crossing that street, and we definitely think that changes need to be made.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. And feel free, quite often council meetings can be a little bit boring, but if you do have the time, we can tune in on YouTube to hear the debate about the proposals you've put forward. Thank you all so much for coming to talk to us today.
Thank you.
Excellent. And now I'll just put the call out in case Caroline Vincent has managed to check in with us. No? Alrighty. Okay, councillors and committee members, we still have half an hour to morning tea, so we will roll on through. No mai Jackie Austin ki te hora ai te kōrero. I would now like to invite Jackie Austin to come up to talk to us about the proposed road closure.
Kia ora, councillors. Deputy Mayor Free. Tough act to follow that last one. Sean Woodcock and Jackie Austin to talk about the road closures. Normally we'd have Council Officer Maria Toma here, but she's actually somewhere enjoying a well-deserved break somewhere which is possibly quite a bit warmer today. But we are bringing, I suppose, good news actually. 7 proposed road closures, which are all good signs that summer's coming. So we have these repeat closures. So we have the Polish Christmas Market and the Thorndon Fair, as well as cricket at the Basin Reserve, and all of these are occurring before Christmas. And then after Christmas, we'll have the Wellington Cycle Classic in early January, as well as cricket at the Basin with both England and Sri Lanka playing tests against the Black Caps, and then of course the Newtown Festival in early March as well. To all of the closures have been no objections noted, and as I mentioned, they've all been repeat events, and we do recommend approval.
He pātai me utu ai mua ai te tau patu. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Condé.
Thank you. Yes, I note that they're all repeat events. I was just wondering if there have been any changes since the last time the events were run, or is it all the same sets of streets they usually use?
It is the same sets of streets. We're hoping that the only change will be that these events will go ahead this time. Many of them were actually postponed last year, but no, the cricket is a reasonably standard one with the slip lane between Buckle Street. Thorndon Fair is a well-trodden event. Polish Christmas Market is probably the only one that's slightly different. I don't think we've actually did hold that last year. So, yeah.
No changes.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Pātai? No? Excellent. Thank you both so much for presenting the report today. Ma wai te mōteni e whakataka koutou. Is there a mover for the motion for this road closure? If not, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Free. Yep.
Well, there really isn't very much to say. I think as our staff have outlined, these are repeat events, so they've been carried out successfully before, and it's actually nice news that we've got a busy city coming into the summer season. So I think it should be pretty straightforward to us to approve it, and I'm happy to move the paper. But I'll hand over to Jenny for her comments as a seconder.
I second this paper.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Condé. He taki hai tau patu. Is there any other debate? Right of reply? No? Excellent. I now put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Please vote accordingly. Ko mana. I declare the motion carried. Thank you, members. We will roll along to the traffic resolutions. No mai Zach Moody and Soon Telekong to introduce the report. Welcome soon, and Zach.
Morning, Madam Chair, Deputy Mayor and Councillors. This morning we have 22 traffic resolution reports to present to the committee, and there's a variety of no stopping line, stop control, intersection control, and also providing refuge island for the students to cross. So that involves implementing more yellow lines. So overall, we recommend that the community supports it. We are here with Zach to answer some of the questions because Zach has done most of the work on this traffic resolution. Thanks.
He pātai me utu ai mua ai te tau patu. Do we have any questions? I had Councillor Day, and then we'll take Councillor Deputy Mayor Free.
Kia ora. Thank you very much. Just following up, particularly on the RLF one, but actually it applies to all of the resolutions that we do which have come up around safety. What sort of monitoring do we do after they're put in place to check if it's been effective to help us, I guess, with future interventions? Do we do any kind of speed monitoring around those zones? Because I think we sort of do regular speed monitoring on some particular hotspots, but do we do anything to see if the interventions have worked? Or
yes, we do. We tend to get a before and after speed or traffic count of the areas when they're reflective for speed concerns in the area. For instance, I've done some in Pūroro after the 30k zones went in, just to get some befores and afters, especially when we do other traffic calming measures in the area.
Any pedestrian facility that we put in, we will monitor how pedestrians are using it so that they are sort of using the manner that we design it for.
And just with regards to RLF, there were some concerns at other points along the road. Is there any opportunity to look at any of those concerns? Because obviously it is a bit of one of those up and downs where speeds can go up and down according to whether you're going down a steep hill, or is there anything else we can do? Because it is obviously a place where people walk all the way along.
We tend to look at how pedestrians can use the location, because by removing yellow lines, by putting yellow lines on bends and places like that, we do increase speed. So we got to make sure that we're not introducing speed while we remove parking. So there's a balance of forward visibility, how drivers can see oncoming vehicles at the bend, and also where pedestrians should be crossing, because not all locations are suitable for crossing due to the nature of Wellington Road. So we do assess that.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Deputy Mayor Free.
Thank you. So I just have a couple of follow-ups from what we heard this morning, and one question of my own regarding Coot Street. So the follow-ups are just the intersections with the terrace. I know we are doing some major pedestrian improvements with another leg of a pedestrian crossing across Bowen Street. Is it likely that we would have a look at the pedestrian facility for, say, Aurora Terrace and Bolton Street, where they meet the terrace? Is it anywhere on our program, or is it sort of not planned?
We are currently working with urban design to look at the whole terrace, and we did consider having a platform crossing for Aurora Terrace and Bolton because of the steepness of the road. We were concerned that if a vehicle do hit it, it would tip over. So we are working with urban design to look at whether we signalize that intersection. In a sense, yeah.
And I did note that one of the submitters, Paula Warren, had suggested squaring, planting or something to just maybe encourage care and slow speeds from vehicles. Is that something that you think, in your opinion, might work, or is it really not
it will be part of that review of those intersections with the urban design team.
Okay, thank you. So the answer is not now, but possibly at some point.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. The intersection of Avon Street and Melbourne Road, I do trust your judgment on this, but the submitter clearly had a different view. I'm just wondering if you could, I'm sure it's there in the papers, but if you could just refresh us on the reason you've chosen to do it the way you've suggested.
So currently Avon does kind of turn into Melbourne Street with the road markings, and also the top end of Avon Street actually is a lot narrower. So it's it does kind of go into Melbourne Street naturally. There is a bit of a kink in the road that takes it into Avon Street. I could probably share my screen and show the street view, if that's possible.
Awesome.
Madam Chair, if I can share my screen, just to bring up a street view of the area. Because a picture says 1,000 words.
Just tee that up for you now.
Does that work? Share. So this is it currently. So you can see the existing centre line and the continuity line on the edge, kind of making Avon Street go into Melbourne Street. This is the top end of Avon Street, and you can see how it just kinks into a much narrower section of Avon Street. So it kind of changes it. I do understand that ages ago, Avon Street, the name, just continued up, but our preference is how we've proposed it on site. And also the traffic volumes. Melbourne Street leads to a school, so there's going to be a lot more traffic coming through here. So this is obviously the priority route with a high volume of traffic versus the other Avon Street.
Deputy Mayor, just to add to what Zach has said, if someone stopped at Melbourne Road on either giveaway to look up Avon Street, they will have difficulty. Whereas when you stop on Avon, you can actually see down Avon Street and to your left on Melbourne Road. So that's the reason why we have selected Avon to have that control. So it's more about visibility when you reach the intersection, whether you can see vehicles coming or not. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very satisfied with that answer. The last thing, which is my own question, is just about the changes to the bus stop on Coote Street, which is near Rongotai College. And I think the purpose is to give a little bit more ability for residents to park, in which case I'm wondering, because it is a school bus that uses it, whether there's merit in considering some times as well as days. I think we've just said Monday to Friday at the moment, but given that it's probably just mainly drop-offs and pickups.
Your bus stop is from 8 to 9 a.m. Monday to Friday, and then P15 at other times.
Okay, I didn't see the time restriction, and maybe it was just the fine print, but if it's there, that's great. So it's 8 a.m. to?
8 a.m. 8 to 9 a.m.
Oh, I see.
Just in the morning.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I didn't see that, but I didn't. It's probably my eyes. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you. We have Councillor Condie next.
Thank you. Things that I'd like to follow up on questions from public participation. Can we start with talking about Victoria Street? And I guess my first question is about this phrase was raised, the shared public footpath space. Is that a phrase that we use? Is it a kind of normal designation, or were we just trying to describe how this footpath space is used?
You cut out at the end there.
Oh. I was just wondering if the shared public footpath space is kind of a designated term that we use, or whether we were just sort of trying to describe how this particular footpath space is used.
So it's kind of like very similar to the Courtney Place area. It's still footpath, but we kind of designated and allow and make activities for the area. Here, like obviously, it's still a footpath pedestrian area just to be shared and obviously attract more attention and activities to the area with these food trucks. Obviously, we still need to keep one zone clear 24/7 for the in case of emergencies for the pump station.
Yeah. And what's the process for setting up or designating these as kind of food truck areas?
We'll put up general signs in the area saying authorised vehicles, and Jackie would kind of control a system where we would simply allow and make it enforceable, or like would remove their permission to be active in that area with food trucks if they were to abuse it.
Okay, so there wouldn't be any further public consultation. If we decide on this today, it will just go ahead and start happening, that food trucks can use that space?
No, we would have to do consultation with the food trucks, and they'd have to get permission and a permit to be able to use this area.
Okay, so they'd have to get a permit to use this specific space. All right. Moving on to Bolton Street, I just wanted to follow up. There was a request from someone to move the Mevo car share parks to the other side of the street. Can you talk to me? We said apparently that they would, on the other side of the street, they would be kind of less useful and wouldn't encourage people to use car share as much. And I'm just not quite sure why moving them across the street would impact on demand.
It'd probably be more the fact that people that get in the City Hopper Mevo vehicles would have to go up Bolton Street and find somewhere to turn around to come back into the city, where the probably main direction would be. And also I think it's directly outside the hotel on that side of the street.
Okay. And then I want to just follow up on Aiken Street. Just confirming that this space, I guess, can you give me the history of this space? Because at the moment it's a footpath, but when it was Defence House there, it was something else.
Councillor Condi, I was involved in the resource consent for the Defence House. What happened was part of improving pedestrian flow, councillors agreed to take away a lot of parking on Mulgrave Street, on that side. And also a lot of parking on Aiken Street, but for reasons of drop-off and mobility parking and servicing the area for parcels, a drop-off area was located exactly where is currently being proposed in the traffic resolution. Because the Defence House was knocked down after the earthquake, we decided, look, there's no use having a loading zone outside an empty lot, so we decided to put it back as a footpath, but it was originally a loading zone for the Defence House, so we are sort of reverting back to what it used to be, but I can accept that is seen as a reduction of a footpath space, but actually we just accommodating what in the future that building would need in terms of more accessibility and loading.
Well, thanks for that, Zach. So does that mean is that the space, are those bollards going to come out and the loading zone will be that slip lane?
Councillor Condi, currently the bollards are not there. It's just a footpath space. So the loading.
Right, that was old. That was when it was in use for the Defence House.
Yes, yes.
So now it looks like that.
Yeah, we revert that back to footpath, but there's a need for a loading and accessibility requirement.
Okay, and is this going to require curb changes? I'm guessing it will.
It'll be part of the building resource consent holder to implement that.
Okay. Can I ask you about Havelock Street? We had Jason come in to talk to us about Havelock Street, and I acknowledged we've already shortened the broken yellow lines by a couple of metres to allow for one additional space. Can you talk about why we can't do another 2 metres? And can you just address the query he had about widening the berm outside of 24 to 30?
So I think when he was referring to widening the berm, I think he meant widening the road into the berm. Just to make the road wider so we wouldn't have to take out the parking. In the pictures that were shown, like it shows that food truck looks like it has plenty of room, but that's kind of because the vehicles are parked on the footpath. So like the officers have been to site actually 2-3 times, I think, to just measure the street, and yeah, it is too narrow, and we don't want to push them too close to that very edge, because if they just go off the edge, they might start slipping down. Widen the road, that's kind of out of scope for a traffic resolution and would be against the kind of parking policy to put funds towards the storage of vehicles. Although I can understand where they're coming from regards to the need to park vehicles for some of the historical houses in the street that don't have off-street parks. But yeah, safety and access trumps that.
Thank you. I'll pass over to Councillor Pennant, and then I do have a few more if every time.
Thank you. I had myself next on the list, and then we'll go to Councillor Pennant. I just wanted to follow up on Councillor Condi's questions about the area of footpath outside the old Defence Force site. Is that not against our parking policy, or I've travelled that street quite a few times, and it's frequented by a lot of pedestrians and a lot of cyclists, so why wouldn't we prioritise, say, turning half of that footpath into a cycle lane instead of making another loading zone in that area?
Madam Chair, I'm unable to answer that question because I think that needs to be looked at from a cycle network perspective, whether there's a need for a cycle network down Aiken Street.
Was the traffic resolution to turn that into a loading zone, was that a part of the resource consent for the new development on the site, or how did we end up?
It's part of accommodating the building for gathering, because they had lots of there's a gathering area in the front of that building, and because the parking was taken away from Mulgrave Street, that's unable to drop people adjacent to the building. So the only solution was to provide some short stay for drop-off pickup, because Mulgrave Street is inaccessible in terms of vehicle parking because it's all yellow lines on that side now.
Okay, cool. And I just had kind of one question for both traffic resolution 124 and 131. So we had public submissions on this, just kind of demonstrating that the report did not mention a loss of footpath space, but clearly we are in an area permitting the access of food trucks in a pedestrian-only space as it is. Are you able to just respond to why the report hasn't mentioned that we're removing space from pedestrians, or just, yeah?
I think, yeah, Madam Chair, I think the word use of not affecting pedestrians, I think, because currently what's happening is cars are parking in all areas and actually blocking more the pedestrian flow. If you go out there, there are vehicles parked in the area in a haphazard manner. This proposal is to sort of arrange it in such a manner that allows pedestrian a clear path rather than being obstructed. So I think the wording is actually not reducing footpath, but actually improving on the thoroughfare for pedestrians, rather than vehicles parking in a haphazard manner in that area, which happens now.
So yeah, regulating the presence of cars in a pedestrian space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So these food trucks won't be there all the time. It'll be mainly during events or summer days, kind of just to attract more people to the area, kind of thing, just to promote activity, kind of thing. I think that was the original design of the area with all the pavers, was that it was always going to be some sort of activity area.
Excellent. All right, I've got Councillor Pennant next.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, officers, for your work on this. Look, I'm going to raise concerns again about drop-off parking at a school. I'm just wondering if really Swiss does need that parking. These are older children, obviously, and we should be encouraging them really strongly to be walking and scootering and biking.
Is this for the Rental Street one?
Yeah. is it really necessary is my question. Should we be taking a stronger line on sustainable transport?
Currently, the school has no drop-off area outside of it, and it's a common thing for us to put a short-term drop-off area outside of schools, even for the older kids, because not all kids or adults can walk to the schools. So we still need to provide for that hopefully smaller group that can't walk to the school. Yeah, we definitely do encourage walking, but it's still a necessary thing here.
And the same sort of goes for the gym about providing parking outside there. I can see that you don't want people parking there all day, but really shouldn't we be encouraging people engaged in their health and fitness to be sustainable too and take a healthy mode to get there?
Gym. Which one are you referring to for the gym?
The Salamanca Road one.
The Salamanca Road Councillor Pendant was more to do with enforcing the area, because currently what is found that the parking services could not enforce the area. People are using it as a commuter parking place. So it's more to support the facility that's there now.
Okay. That's sort of not the way I read it. And again, just my point is, you know, we could even just get rid of the parking. Why do we need it there?
Yeah, I do see your point about not providing parking, but at the moment, I think if we're trying to address the issue of enforcing or managing that space, because currently we are not managing the space to facilitate people who wants to exercise or tennis sports, and it's all occupied by commuters and people who are not meant to be using those space and facilities.
Yeah, right. And
yeah, I think through you, Madam Chair, Councillor, I mean, the team are responsible for regulating the current environment. You'll be familiar and aware of the work we're doing with the speed management plan, and more importantly, reminding Council of the transport hierarchy, of which we have pedestrians and cyclists at the top.
That's right.
Yeah, so sort of the team, you know, we're very aware of Sun and the team have to manage the existing environment as best that they can, but we have some large settings that we're working on, as you know, which implements Council's adopted transport hierarchy, of course, which prioritises pedestrians and cyclists. So we'll look forward to that speed management work. And of course, as I've highlighted earlier, the work we do with the schools individually to try to prepare that plan, that work's already commenced. And it was great hearing from Redwood today. I've got a feeling, I think Devon in the middle spoke better than some of my officers. She very articulate, and it was wonderful to see. And we're really looking forward to engaging with those schools and getting that sort of feedback from the boards and from the teachers and pupils.
Thanks. And Liam, you know, my concern is we make these small changes which look a bit innocuous, but actually overall they add up to quite a lot of undesirable outcome. Anyway, I'll leave that for debate. And just my last question. I always give weight to Mike Mellor's words. So the around Aiken Street and Bolton Street, is it possible to do some more work on that to make those areas more pedestrian friendly?
Yes, we can do that. We can kind of consider under a minor works program to consider pedestrian safety there, or we can continue something with the urban design group.
Yeah, so I mean, I get the point about the Aiken Street one. It is a bit tricky, and we have lots of pedestrians around there, presumably because there's so many government ministries.
Yes, there's a lot of foot traffic in the area, and like I've wondered why it hasn't been upgraded for a while, but it's something that we can either consider under a minor works or another kind of project for the area.
So if it goes on the minor works side, that list is very long. So, you know, like what kind of time frame would that be then?
It's hard to tell at the moment. Like we kind of set each year projects for the year, and then it kind of goes on a holding list for the next couple of years, and we kind of evaluate each year what takes priority. Okay, well, we might just need to increase your budget again. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Pennant. Councillors and members, we have two other people on the question list, Deputy Mayor Free and Condi. Would we like to break for morning tea now or get your questions done? How are we feeling? Officers, are we okay to keep going for another 10?
I support getting the questions done. I'm sure we're almost there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Free.
So mine just followed on a little bit from Councillor Condi's questions on Victoria Street. I do remember when we put in Victoria Street and it was a bit of a rush, and we had to squeeze a tiny wee cycle lane in there and it wasn't terribly adequate. We've got 4 car parks there that have always been problematic. I'm just wondering if, my question really is this time to have, is there any intention to have a more holistic view at what we're trying to provide for pedestrians there? Because I don't think we hit the mark in any way. And if we're starting to talk food trucks, does it come, it probably doesn't even come into your, but is there any intention to have a more holistic view at that problem with those 4 car parks sitting in the middle of a lane and some of the other issues?
My past involvement, Deputy Mayor, is that it was difficult to enforce that area once it was built. I mean, basically, enforcement could not be carried out because it wasn't clear what can be done. There was a bit of difficulty also putting markings, lines on that nice urban area space, and as a result, we are trying to tidy up this area as much as we can now. And we'll continue to monitor and make sure that, look, if it's not working for pedestrians, I think we will revisit how we use that space, because the primary focus is for pedestrians, and because we can't manage the vehicle haphazard parking behavior, we're trying to manage it now and monitor it in sort of the future to see how it works.
So what you're saying is, if we approve these resolutions, it will help manage the area as it is, and then it's probably a question for Liam's team as to whether there's any desire to do anything to further improve it in the future. And I can see
it's one of the it's on city streets under Let's Get Wellly Moving.
Yeah, well, it would be. I would think there would be some big changes coming with bus lanes and all sorts of things actually. But yeah, okay. Thank you. These are a good. These are a step on the way. Thank you.
Councillor Condi.
Thank you. I do have a few more questions. Could we talk about the Harold Street traffic resolution? Because that's one where we had a number of residents come together and put together an alternative option, which I understand staff felt wasn't workable. But can you talk us through what they were proposing, why, and why you don't think it would work?
Thank you, Councillor Condi. So I've just shared the screen of what's kind of proposed at the moment. So it's a very narrow street as it is, and the main reason that councillors want to put braking lines on this side is mainly for any larger emergency service vehicles or even countdown food trucks to actually make that turn. If there's a vehicle parked here, as you can see on the screen, a little red one, it makes that turn just very difficult, especially if there's other vehicles parked over here. The community did propose this kind of situation, but even now you can kind of shows it a little bit better. Vehicles parked here, any large vehicle would struggle to make that turn. And I believe there's more vehicles lost with this proposal.
Thank you, Zach. That was actually very helpful to understand why it's that particular parking space that's important. Can I ask about Hānia Street, where we're creating one P10 park outside of a dance studio, and there was again a request in the public submissions to have more than one P10 parking here. But I understand there are other businesses in the area. Can you tell me, like, what are the other businesses in the area, and do they need to continue to use some P120?
I believe the area is just commuter parking, and there's a lot of businesses area that's I think Hānia Street is like off the main Cambridge Terrace area and is quite heavily used for commuting. So there's a lot of use for that, and I'm pretty sure that there was on it the request was only for one car park.
Okay, well, if that's, I'm just thinking if that's otherwise commuter parking, perhaps we can monitor that area and see whether a second P10 might be needed, because certainly in the parking hierarchy, we would prioritise this kind of drop off for a business over an additional commuter park.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So if we can keep an eye on that, that'd be awesome. I did have a question about Rental Street and outside of Swiss, and just wondering, what are those P10 spaces now? Because I wasn't clear whether they're resident spaces or coupon or...
It's outside of the residence zone, so it's unrestricted. So it's probably used by a lot of commuter parking and residents of the area.
Okay.
It's being close to the hospitals and in the area.
Cool. My last question on the specific traffic resolutions is about Northland Road. There was somebody who was asking about a P15 outside number 65, and the response from staff was that wasn't a P15, and we were going to look into something to do with the pedestrian crossing.
Oh yes, I know my officers are looking at this crossing separately.
Right. Okay. So there was some confusion about whether there was a parking space up there. That was
yes,
P15.
it's this spot here.
Okay, but it's a P60 at the moment.
I believe so. I can't quite recall. I can probably have a look at Street View and double check. But
that's cool.
Because I believe they were requesting it to be removed due to visibility to the crossing.
Right. Councillor Condi, we're doing it under delegated authority to put yellow lines because pedestrian comes first.
Yeah.
For the area. Yeah.
Okay, so so that's not going to need to be a traffic resolution. You're going to deal with that. Yeah. Fantastic. My last question. Oh.
Oops. Yeah. Thank you.
My last question is probably for Liam and Siobhan, to be honest. There was one comment on this Northland Road traffic resolution. We heard from one of the residents associations in the area who said, we've been asking for changes to all of Northland Road and Garden Road, asking for residents parking to be looked at here. And the opposite response was, we have to do area-wide parking plans, which makes sense. That's what the parking policy said. But it said that we would have to do the whole of Kelburn suburb to be able to look at Northland Road and Garden Road. And to be honest, I kind of felt like that was a bit of overkill. I'm not really sure why we have to do all of Kelburn in order to look at a couple of roads in Northland.
Councillor Condi, yeah, we can take that away and have a look at it. And I think it's because of the way we've interpreted what an area-based parking plan is and definition of what that area is. And we're just embarking now. I think we've had our first parking management plan done. So we've kind of now got that. Are we waiting for that? Is it in
Wadestown.
Right, Wadestown, yeah. So we're just waiting for that process to be developed. So we'll take that away and have a look and see whether we can reduce, whether there is merit in reducing the area.
Thank you. And I just think, following on from Councillor Pannett's comment about whether we might need more money in the minor works budget, I think those are two areas where, there's lots of demand from the community, lots of things that we do want to get done. And, it is feeling a bit frustrating at sometimes the slow progress, despite all of your wonderful best efforts. So that would be something that I would like to kind of consider in future. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you all. With that, we will move along to a break for morning tea. I would appreciate if anybody is thinking of amendments to give us a heads up over the break. Otherwise, we will come back at 10:55. Yeah, we will come back at 10:55. Thanks all. thank you for your patience, and hopefully you got a bit of a snack over morning tea. We are going to move right along to moving the traffic resolutions paper, and then once we have you'll be able to move any amendments, and we will ask questions on amendments after the paper has been moved and seconded. I am really happy to move this paper here today and take it as read. I think the officers have offered up a lot of answers to our questions and given a really well introduction. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Condi. Would you like to speak?
Thank you. Just briefly to say, and particularly on Aiken Street, where I totally understand the concerns about losing pedestrian space, I also think it's really important that we can have school trips and other things come to the archives once they're there. And so I think that actually putting in a loading zone in this space is the right thing to do in this circumstance. And it's great to hear that staff are looking at improvements all along the terrace, and hopefully we can see some pedestrian improvements through Bolton Street as part of that. And just it's great to see, like, there's a lot of traffic resolutions here. You can see that the staff have been really busy, and you know, in particular looking at these broken yellow lines that are needed, because as you know, cars are no longer parking on the footpaths. We really have to tackle these narrow streets and make sure that we do have enough space for emergency vehicles to get through. So thank you.
He takai hai tau patu. Is there any debate? Councillor Jill Day.
Kia ora, very quickly, because I'm expecting a phone call in a couple of minutes. But I did just want to really thank the staff for their response on the Oriel Ave request from the school. It was really encouraging for the school and the children to see council respond and come up with a solution that works for the community. And I think it is quite important, I know Iona will be supportive of this, that we do really need to try and figure out a way to have conversations with schools to get this a bit more organised, because it is hard for our staff to have to respond sort of in an ad hoc way when these requests come in, whereas if we could have some discussions with schools about the areas where students and parents are saying it is a bit of a dangerous space, then we could sort of have a bit more of an organised plan would be good. But it's really great that we've got young people coming to tell us that they want to walk to school and they want it to be safe. So encourage other people to come and do that, and thank you to the students at Redwood School for doing this. It's great to see you making change in our city. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Councillor Day, for acknowledging that. Councillor Pennant.
Well, thank you, and I'd like to acknowledge the work of staff, and you've had praise from Mr. Mellor saying, you know, that you put some good resolutions up, so thank you very much for that. Yeah, look, I continue my strong opposition to parking around schools. And as Mr. Hodgetts knows, I'm very engaged in this particular issue around speed management. We need to get a much better approach to this. You know, it has to be the norm that kids do walk, scooter, cycle to school. Obviously, what is also apparent is that we need to put another increase into the minor safety improvements. It's great that our communities are wanting these improvements, and we need to fund it more. You know, we did increase the funding, as I recall, but clearly not enough, because I'm sure the list is a very long one. Look, I get the thing around the Salamanca one. You know, we don't want unrestricted parking, but nevertheless, I also object to lots of parking outside recreational facilities. You know, getting to places is another form of fitness. And just on, I'm going to vote against Aiken Street. I get that point about mobility parking, but those should be specifically labelled, not just for everyone, if that's our main concern. And there has been some loading zone provision made elsewhere. And I look forward to some progress on Bolton Street. So look, you know, the submitters at least have supported the giveaway sign, but we need to do more there. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Pennant. Committee members, is there any other debate? Deputy Mayor Free.
Yeah, I always forget to do this, so I just really do want to thank your team, Siobhan. They're no longer here, but they do such a good job. Oh, you are here. Good. And, you know, just the way that you do respond to submitters individually, I think it's very courteous and always well thought out and reasoned, which, I don't think we could ask for any more. So thank you for all the work. I too am looking forward to future improvements. I know we're doing it slowly. We're getting there by inches. I'm looking forward to further pedestrian improvements to the terrace, those streets that come down and intersect. I think we can do a little bit more. And I'm really looking forward to a big rethink about Victoria Street, because we did put it in a bit of a rush. It's been in now for about 7 years. And with all the changes that are going on, I think it's time to have a look at this whole space and are we really doing the best we can. I don't feel we've hit the mark with the pedestrian aspect of it, despite quite a bit of space being given over to that. And of course we need the bus lanes, and we need to look at some of the anomalies with the parking we've got that don't really work. I also do agree with what others have said, that it's becoming really obvious that as we do this work with residents' suburban streets, that we're finding issues, and to help them manage the new reality that we're not allowing parking on the footpaths and things like that. I think we do need more money to look at resident parking zones in particular, and maybe even a little bit of money to look at how we can create maybe eke out of banks a little bit to create shared loading zones, because I think that's, we will have less parking, but people have still got to be able to get things delivered, and large vehicles occasionally do need to come, moving trucks and the like do need to come, rubbish vehicles do need to be able to get to our streets. So I think there's a really good case, and I'm speaking really to my colleagues here, those of us who are back, all those who can just spread the word that I think this is really important work. We're getting through it, but we could get through a lot more with more budget. So that's what I have to say, but really a big thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Free. E nai nei ka potitina te motene. I now put the motion which has been moved and seconded. I just wanted to clarify with Councillor Pennant. Yep. Did you want to take the Bolton Street resolution separately as well?
No, sorry. Can I just take Aiken, no, just Aiken and the Swiss one, Rintoul Street, those two.
Was that F or G for Rintoul?
Oh, sorry.
The time restricted changes or the P10 pick up and drop off parking?
So the Rintoul Street P pick up and drop off, and then the Aiken Street one, sorry, I'll just try and find the numbers.
We've got the Aiken one.
Oh,
yep.
Oh, you've got the Aiken one, so just those two, yep.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Should we put those first in the paper? Okay, cool. We'll take those. We will take those two first. So we're looking at recommendation 2V and 2G. Is everybody clear what they're voting on? Okay.
2V.
Would you like us to take them separately, Heidi? All right, we'll just take those two together if that's all right. Cool. Ko mana, I declare the motion carried with 1 against. We will just carry the rest of the recommendations under 2.2 traffic resolutions, please. Ko mana, that motion, that whole paper is carried. Thank you all. No mai Nicole Taira ki te hora ai te kōrero. Please welcome Nicole Taira to introduce the report.
Good morning. We've had an applicant come to us and ask for remission. Unfortunately, the builder was liquidated halfway through the build. They are left with a house that's only 40% or 30% complete and unfortunately 200K down. They've asked for a full remission just to help them out financially. Unfortunately, I haven't recommended that we remit it, purely based on the fact that we don't know how many other people are going to be in this situation. And if we grant this one, what that'll mean for any further remissions. However, they haven't asked, but what I've suggested is we offer a postponement instead, giving them enough time to move into the house, get their finances sorted with their bank, and to able to get their CCC, so get their insurance.
Kia ora, thank you, Nicole. He pātai me utu ai mua e ai te tau patu. Do we have any questions before we move on to debate? I have a question for you. Is there any particular reason why we would delay development contributions for the period of 1 year, or would we be able to delay it for 2 years or 3 years? Does that make much of a difference?
I believe we can delay up to 2 years. I think the old policy is, and this one falls in the old policy, says up to 2 years. So there's no reason we couldn't go to 2 years.
Excellent. Thank you, councillors. Were there any other questions? No, that's all right. Thank you very much. A very well introduced report.
Thank you.
Mai wai te mōtini e whakataka koutou. Is there a mover for the motion? Thank you, Chairman Wolf. We will take you as the mover and Deputy Mayor Free as the seconder. Would you like to speak now?
Yeah, thank you. I've written to you all in respect of what's been proposed. I would think that given the circumstances, 2 years would be a fair and reasonable result. As a deferral. I think that our officers have come back with a really good compromise. I think that we're going to see a lot more of this sort of situation in the future, and I think that if we take a deferral approach, it's responsible. It's not to say that someone can't come back to us in the future if they're still having difficulties. It just leaves the door open and it gives the applicant a bit of a reprieve. So yeah, I have no hesitation in supporting a deferral for 2 years.
Thank you, Councillor Wolf. Just to confirm with you, you are moving an amendment to the substantive motion to change from 1 year to 2 years in the paper?
That's correct, and I would like to see that occur with the leave of the meeting.
Yeah.
If at all possible. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you. Councillor Wolf, we have Deputy Mayor Free.
Yeah, look, I think this speaks for itself. I'm happy with the 2 years. I mean, this is a very big financial loss these people have undertaken, which is not council's fault, but we are in a position to help a little bit. So I think it's, under the circumstances, it's a compassionate thing to do. I'm happy to second.
He taka hei tau patu. Is there any other debate? Right of reply?
No, I'm good. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Wolf. I now put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Please vote accordingly. Kua mana, the motion has been carried. Thank you all. We are now moving on to agenda item 2.4, proposed road stopping, land adjoining 28 Hātepe Street, Hātepe. No mai Sarah Jane still, ki te hora ai te kōrero. Welcome, Sarah Jane.
just want me to introduce the paper? Yeah, so this is a road stopping application for 28 Hātepe Street in Hātepe. They would like to purchase some road land. They have a deck and a bit of their dwelling built over the property boundary. So we have proposed stopping 25 square metres of road land to accommodate that.
He pātai me utu ai mua I te tau patu. Does anyone have any questions before we move on to debate? Very well. Thank you, Sarah Jane. Mai wai te motini I whakataka koutou. Is there a mover for this motion? I'm very happy to move this, considering it's my suburb. Yep. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Free, as a seconder. I am happy to move the recommendations as is and take this report as read. Deputy Mayor Free, would you like to...
Likewise. I mean, I note it's still going out for consultation, so I just think, yep, happy just to not speak to it really at this point.
Excellent. I have no right of reply. E nai ka potiti tia te motini. I now put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Please vote accordingly. Ko mana, I declare the motion as carried. Forward program. No mai Liam Hodgetts ki te hora a te kōrero. Please welcome Liam Hodgetts to introduce the report.
Kia ora tātou, councillors. Just taking the report as read. And any questions?
He pātai me utu ai mua I te tau patu. Does anyone have any questions before we move on to debate? Nope. Thank you, committee members. Ma wai te motini I whakataka koutou. Is there a mover of the motion? I am very happy to move the motion. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Condi, thank you. I don't feel the need to speak, given that very, very good introduction from Mr. Hodgetts. Condi, would you like to talk? Thank you. Cheers. He take hai tau patu. Is there any debate? There is no right of reply. E nai ka potitia te motini. I now put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Ko mana, I declare the motion carried. We are now moving on to 2.4. Oh, actually, sorry. Forgot to turn my page. Actions tracking 2.6. No mai Liam Hodgetts ki te hora ai te kōrero. Please welcome Liam Hodgetts to introduce the report.
Again, thank you, Madam Chair. As you can see, we have 44 resolutions currently underway in the Regulatory Processes Committee. A number of the complete, 28. We've in progress. We've got 16 complete, and those progress actions are being reported each time we bring back to the Regulatory Committee. So any questions or points of clarification, I'm open to those.
He pātai me utu ai mua ai te tau patu. Does anyone have any questions before we move on to debate? Thank you, members. Ma wai te motini I whakataka koutou. Is there a mover of the motion? I am very happy to move the motion. Ma wai te whakahounga e tautoko. Is there a seconder of the motion? Thank you, Councillor Condi. He take hai tau patu. Is there any debate? Thank you. We are already voting. You know the drill. Kua mana, the motion has been carried. Thank you all for a very efficient meeting. It is now the conclusion of the meeting. Ai tēnā kua mutu I te hui, I tū mō te karakia. Please stand for the karakia. Unuhia, ki te uru tupanui. Kia wātia, kia mama, tēnā kau, te tēnana, te wairua. E te ara takatū, ko e rā I rongo, whakaria a kikironga. Kia wātia, Aira ko wātea.